is Alain Prost, the pole position man, leading the warm-up lap, with Patrick Tambay second on the grid, in second place on the warm-up lap of this 4.3-mile lap. Andrea De Cesaris is third fastest on the grid in the Alfa Romeo, with Nelson Piquet fourth, René Arnoux fifth on the grid, Riccardo Patrese in the Brabham BMW sixth, Manfred Winkelhock in the ATS, higher than he's ever been, I think, in seventh place, Eddie Cheever in the second Renault eighth, Keke Rosberg, the leading Ford-powered car, is in ninth place, and Mark Sura, an excellent in the Arrows, 10th position. And Sura is very much a man to watch in this race, I think. Well, now they're on their way down to the lowest part of the course, the Blanchimont turn, and they start to bear right eventually and join the public highway part of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, because whilst the new bit across the valley is not public road normally, a large part of the course is still used by normal traffic, and that's unique in Grand Prix racing as far as I can remember at the top of my head for this year. So 26 cars to start. It is a 42-lap race. Monaco, of course, has got public roads. I forgot that. I should have remembered it, because we were, after all, only there last weekend. And 42 laps is 182 miles. And everybody is asking themselves, as the cars thread their way through this superb scenery, is it going to rain? How would it affect things, James, here of all places?
Well, to start off with, one of the problems is that the circuit covers quite a large area. The clouds tend to come over pretty localized here, and they're liable to get, if it does arrive, a downpour on one part of the circuit and not on another. And of course that was the age-old problem with this track, that was one of the major nails in its coffin in its original form. But in fact, the weather, I think, was more threatening about 2 to 3 hours ago. The clouds seem to have lifted a bit, and we've got a bit of a breeze going. So, while I have mixed feelings, because of course it always throws the cat amongst the pigeons, and as it were, livens the race up if we get a bit of rain during the race, and it just remains to be seen where we get it on the track. But of course, if we get half a track wet and half a track dry, then they've got a real problem, because wet tyres don't like dry bits of track, and if it's really streaming wet, dry tyres are no good for that. So there's a problem. Anyway, they're assembled on the grid, waiting for the last cars to stop before the red light.
42 laps to go, 16 cars to refuel, because they were all going to refuel those 16 if it's dry, and it is dry at the moment. And the Belgian Grand Prix is on, and De Cesaris sprints through from the second rank and takes the lead at the first right-hander at La Source, followed by Alain Prost, and they're still getting away at the tail end of the grid. Probably they've had trouble with the lights, and Prost and De Cesaris go through. And now, where are the rest of them? We've had trouble at the start in a big way at the start of the Belgian Grand Prix.
Well, it looks like we've had a false start, because Prost and De Cesaris are busy racing, and Tambay and the rest of the field slowed down. The back markers didn't get away. We did not have a caption picture of the lights, so we're unable to tell you anything about what's going on. But certainly the rest of the field is not racing. Prost and De Cesaris are probably having a terrific fun out on their own, because in that situation, a racing driver, when he sees the green light, goes and doesn't stop. So it looks like a huge mess up, as we say, and remains to be seen what happens. It's a pity that we couldn't see what happened with the lights. I would suspect that maybe we had a jump start, because they certainly seem to move pretty quickly from when apparently the red light came on. We couldn't see the red light, but when the engine notes climb, that's normally when the red light comes on, and it may be that De Cesaris jumped the start. He certainly appeared to get a flyer, and well, we'll see what happens.
Well, in this, are they going to stop the race, is what we have to ask ourselves. De Cesaris and Prost out on their own. De Cesaris thinking he's in the lead, Prost thinking he's in second place. They're going very slowly. They are obviously going to pull them in and restart the Belgian Grand Prix.
Yes, I think they've clocked it, Murray. They're just cruising around as well, so yeah, I can't see any marshals giving a stopped race flag signal, but somehow that must have been communicated to them, because they don't appear to be racing.
Well, this was something that one must say could not necessarily have been unexpected, because with the drivers starting on a curve and with them having to have two sets of lights, it was entirely predictable that something like this might happen, although we're hypothesizing that De Cesaris jumped the start. Now, there is the man who is going to stop De Cesaris and Prost as they come up to the grid for the second time. They're coming up to the chicane, and the black flag is being shown there. There is no doubt about the fact that the 42-lap Belgian Grand Prix is going to have to be restarted, because look at the gap. And it was, incidentally, I think Elio De Angelis was stuck on the grid, because it was definitely one of the black and gold John Player special cars that we were looking down on from above. So look now as the cars come through with the yellow flags waving to assemble for the restart.
Well, we now have a restart situation, which is going to be interesting to see just how the officials orchestrate this. Will they do 5 or 10 minute countdown in the normal way, count the cars off for another warming up lap or pace lap, which would then mean that the cars have done 2 more laps of this 4-mile circuit than they had anticipated, and the accurate measurements with which teams put the fuel in, this will throw the cat among the pigeons if the organisers don't allow refuelling on the grid, and very often they don't. So we might have a bit of a situation for the Barrack Room lawyers here.
And of particular significance is the Brabham team, because their fuel is very, very marginal indeed, and this race is much longer than Monaco last week, and things were pretty tight for Brabham at Monaco, so it's going to be more than interesting to see what happens. There then is the reformed grid for the 42-lap Belgian Grand Prix. Are we going to get a clean start this time? I wish they'd show us what is on that board so that we can see what it's. Thank you very much. 5 minutes. So 5 minutes to go, and let's run through the situation again very quickly. Alain Prost on the left, the man of the year in many ways so far. Prost, who won the French Grand Prix, went on to finish second at San Marino, finished third at Monaco last weekend, is second in the World Championship with 19 points. And then on the right in the Scarlet Ferrari and wearing the blue helmet, Patrick Tambay. Now we're looking at the refueling, and that is Marc Sure's car. I say we're looking at the refueling. We're looking at the refueling gantry. Now, why is that? Because the arrows are not refueling. James?
Well, I think he must have had a problem with this car, because he's come actually into the pit. And this presents a problem. There's a 5-minute board out, and he is probably going to have to do a full lap to get right round. And so whatever he's got, he better sort it out quickly. Otherwise, he'll have to start from the pit after the field is gone. Possibly historical in Grand Prix racing, because I wouldn't think they had such a thing as a full start before that.
Ready then for another warm-up lap with somebody, one of the turbos smoking very badly. And turbos, of course, do not like being stopped and restarted. They can have trouble. Derek Warwick didn't break a turbo this morning in the half-hour warm-up, non-qualifying session. He absolutely blew one asunder. I've never seen anything like it. A new one has been fitted, and they're hoping that the Tolman's going to go through the race all right. So, off on another warm-up lap. Now, they're coming down to La Source. This is the first gear, 50 mile an hour on a flying lap, and then they plunge down to what is probably one of the most photographed sites in a famous course in the world, and that's the approach to Eau Rouge, where the cars bottom out, and the skid plates underneath the cars, and they all have tiny little skid plates. There is the bottoming out point. Now they climb uphill, and they've been leaving streaks of aluminium on that part of the course. Now from Eau Rouge, it is past the Rodeo. They're still climbing. They're going along to Kemmel. You can see the course winding away to the right there. Now you can see what the wonderful Spa-Francorchamps circuit is like. They're on their way to Les Combes, which is a third gear, 120 mile an hour corner. and it's after they've gone round the right and you see them take a left that they are at the highest point of the course. Now here's the right. This is where they turn off the old Spa-Francorchamps circuit, which was 8.8 miles long. Now Alain Prost on the warm-up lap for the second time is at the highest point of the course. He goes down the right hand and he starts to drop downhill at what will be 150 miles an hour to the Rivage bend, which is a U-turn, doubles right round on itself. And now they're starting to drop down into the valley. Patrick Tambay behind him, then De Cesaris, then Nelson Piquet. So let's go through the grid again. It hasn't changed, of course. You're seeing them on the second warm-up lap with Alain Prost, the fastest man in practice, the pole position holder, leading away in his Renault. There's Patrick Tambay, who's second fastest on the grid. Andrew De Cesaris there, third fastest. Nelson Piquet there, fourth fastest. Then René Arnoux, fifth fastest. Riccardo Patrese, sixth fastest. Manfred Winkelhock in the ATS, higher than he's ever been before, seventh fastest. Eddie Cheever, eighth in the second Renault. Keke Rosberg, the fastest, and that is Sura in the arrows. Now he will, as James said, have to start from the pit lane because there's no way, even if he was allowed to, that he would be able to do a lap and catch up with them. And so the 10th position place on the grid, which should be held by Marc Sura, will be vacant. Jacques Lafitte, 11th on the grid. Mauro Baldi, 12th. And then in terms of the British drivers, Nigel Mansell is 19th, John Watson is 20th, and Derek Warwick 22nd. And now they are on their way up, having gone past the lowest part of the course at Blanchimont on what is normally a 170 mile an hour section, absolutely flat out, curving left through the forest up to the new chicane, which is a second, third, and changing up into fourth as they exit complex of bends. There's the signboard, 100 metres to the chicane, and here it is. You see the left, the right, with a tiny little short straight where they get up to 120 miles an hour, blast out of the right-hander, and now the lead cars are on the curving left-hander, which is the grid. And we can only keep our fingers crossed and hope that we don't get a repetition of what happened in the first start. The tail-enders coming up to complete the grid with the Renault, which was to have started on the right, and to the pleasure of Jean Sage, the Renault team manager, was switched to the left. As you look at it, the right as Prost sits on the grid at the last moment. That means to say he's got the best line for the first corner, the hairpin right-hander at La Source, and away they go for the second time, and De Cesaris has done it again. Incredible. De Cesaris streaks through, and he leads at La Source. Prost is second, Tambay is third, and Arnoux and Patrese lock wheels, but get away, and it looks to me, thank heavens, as though we've got a clean start, and they streak now down to Eau Rouge, and it's still Andrea De Cesaris, who the best he has done so far in Grand Prix racing was pole position at Long Beach last year, and the Alpha has been really flying here. They've got new turbochargers which have had a very beneficial effect on performance, and now they're up to Les Combes. Andrea De Cesaris, lap 1, leads in the Alpha. Prost is second, Tambay is third, Arnoux in the second Ferrari is in fourth position. Now, down past the Malmedy turn, on to Rivage.
Well, fantastic start by De Cesaris. He really threaded the camel through the eye of the needle there at the start, because Prost and Tambay were closing that gap, and he still managed to squeeze through. He was moving beautifully off the line. The Alfa engine must have a very good pickup to do that. And in the meantime, Patrese and Arnoux, who both are known not to be frightened of a bit of bumping, were bumping and things, but they got away with it. They appeared to be, if not bumping hard, they were leaning on each other. But now the field is all in line of turn. We've spread out to settle down, and they're going sweeping away around this really very picturesque circuit.
into and out of Blanchimont on lap 1 in this, now we are told 41 lap race, and we're checking on that. It's been reduced by a lap from 42 to 41, and coming up towards the chicane. De Cesaris pulling away from Alain Prost. De Cesaris in the Alfa Romeo. What a lovely shot, looking down through the forest as he comes up to the chicane, and it is De Cesaris the leader. Prost is second. Tombay is third, Arnoux is fourth. Now into the sweeping left-hander, past over the grid and down to La Source on lap 2. It is the 23-year-old Italian, Andrea De Cesaris. Prost and Arnoux has closed right up to Patrick Tombay in fourth position. Nelson Piquet is in fifth position, and Manfred Winkelhock has moved up in the ATS into sixth place, and it looks like the second Brabham BMW of Riccardo Patrese in seventh place, in which case he has really pulled up through the field. Lap 2 out of 41.
Well, a big test for Andrea De Cesaris, who has matured quite spectacularly over the last year as a driver. He's settled down and steadied down from his disastrous first season in Formula One racing, where he crashed more times than he raced, and literally, and with practice and everything else, and his career was very much written off by a lot of the serious commentators, team managers, people in the business, but Alfa Romeo put faith in him, and Marlboro, Italy, I have to say, put a lot of faith in him, and it all started at Long Beach last year, but he's never put it together yet all the way. Now he's driving under the maximum pressure, leading a Grand Prix with the on-form Prost-Renault combination behind him, and that is a Brabham stop, and I can't read the number on it, and I can't see a driver around, so I'm afraid I can't tell you whether that's Piquet or Patrese. It's Patrese according to the caption. So Patrese is out of the race. We don't know why. It looks like a mechanical breakdown. The car appears undamaged, as Andrea De Cesaris leads the race, but he is not pulling away from Alain Prost. Prost is sitting on his tail at just the right distance to make one feel under some pressure and rather nervous. But it's early days yet, and it's a big test for De Cesaris, because he's shown he's got the speed. His car is going very well indeed. Alfa have got a terrific engine as usual. They make very good engines indeed. They've got their chassis obviously quite well together, and a heavy responsibility on Andrea's young shoulders, with the field breathing down his neck.
Round La Source into lap 3. You see Tombay third, Arnoux fourth, Piquet fifth with his teammate out, Winkelhock in sixth position, and in seventh place is Keke Rosberg. Rosberg in seventh place, and the leading 3-litre engine car. Alboreto, incidentally, turned out in practice in the brand new DFY, the very special DFY engine, and blew it to smithereens this morning, and is out with a normal DFY engine. But lap 3, there is De Cesaris, who has yet to finish a Grand Prix this year, because he didn't qualify in Brazil for pretty technical reasons, like he had big problems over a refueling situation, and at Long Beach he didn't finish, France he didn't finish, San Marino he didn't finish, Monaco he didn't finish, so we have to have a question mark over the ability of Andrea De Cesaris and the Alfa Romeo to finish here, whereas the Renaults have proved to be much more reliable this year than they were last. They have had trouble, and it's Andrea De Cesaris on lap 3, still leading with Alain Prost second. And look for the Ferraris. There is Tombay, there is Arnoux, and behind Arnoux in fifth position is Piquet, then still Winkelhock, Rosberg, Lafitte, Chiva, Baldi and De Angelis.
Incidentally, for anybody who didn't clock what it was, that set of hieroglyphics across the bottom of your screen caption just now was the numbers of the leading runners.
There is De Cesaris now, coming up to the end of lap 3, into the chicane. And in 16th position, it's John Watson. In 17th place, it's Derek Warwick. And we have no sign at the present moment of Nigel Mansell. He's certainly well below 20th position. as the leaders come down to complete their third lap. And there is Nelson Piquet. Now Piquet is starting to close on René Arnoux. It's turbocharged cars in the first 5. De Cesaris now is leading Prost, and it's still the 2 Ferraris, and the gap between De Cesaris and Prost is just over a second. Into Eau Rouge goes Piquet in 5th place.
Yes, the interesting thing is Keke Rosberg's form in 7th place, because he is really keeping up pretty much in line astern with those leading turbos, and not very far behind him is his teammate Jacques Lafitte in the other Williams. So they are matching the turbos for pace at the moment, but there's a little bit of puff of a smoke there from De Cesaris' car, but that's normal on the gear shift, just blowing a bit of oil out of his system as the engine relights. But the problem is, of course, for the 2 Williamses, that they also are liable to have to stop and refuel, and so they're not using the advantage that they could potentially have over the turbos of being able to go the whole distance with less disadvantage of weight penalty, because they don't use so much fuel. And anyway, I'm sure they've worked it all out, but they are running on a most impressive pace compared with the turbos and holding them. And in fact, we've got the makings, it would seem to me, of a pretty good race. At the moment, the first 7 cars are pretty much in line astern, and nobody's getting away from anybody very much. As Murray said just now, Nelson Piquet looks as if he could handle a move up, although he's dropped back a little bit from the Ferraris at the moment. But of course, on a very fast circuit like this, the cars on the long straights tend to spread a little bit more as they get out of the slow corners and get away. There goes De Cesaris, still holding on to his lead, but nobody's really making any move on anybody else at the moment. We've got 7 cars all running behind each other, but nobody really looks like passing, with the possible exception of Piquet, who looks a little bit threatening.
There's the leader. This is lap 5, and the leader is number 22, De Cesaris. Prost in 2nd place, Tournbay in 3rd, Arnoux in 4th, Piquet in 5th, Winkelhock in 6th position, then the first non-turbocharged car, that of Keke Rosberg, who is holding the turbos in sight. And the interesting thing is that Keke Rosberg started this race on a much harder grade of tyre than most of the turbo cars, in fact than all the turbo cars in front of him. And that is going to be very significant, and we have to wonder whether they've made the right choice of tyre. And there, number 30 is Thierry Boutsen, the Belgian, in his first Grand Prix, and that must be Baldi, because that's the second of the 2 Alfa Romeos. So Boutsen and Baldi, Boutsen the Belgian in his first Grand Prix, and Mauro Baldi, who didn't, unlike Andre De Cesaris, have a very happy practice period, both in the pits very early on in the race. Boutsen in his Arrows, Baldi in his Alfa Romeo, and there is the second Alfa Romeo on lap 5 in this 41-lap race. And another puff of smoke. It may well be that that's, as James says, just the change down. I know that some of the drivers like the mixture a bit richer, in which case that affects the exhaust. De Cesaris is driving an extremely mature race. We think now that he must have got all the impetuousness out of his system.
Yeah, it's now looking, Murray, it's puffing quite consistently, and I would say that that's more than it should be puffing for an engine that's in good health, or rather one that's not leaking something. You see another puff there as he rounded that corner, and you know, a very marked puff with every shift. Seems to be more than in the opening lap. So I wonder if Cesaris hasn't at least got a small oil leak onto a hot part of the engine, or at worst, of course, he could be something internal with the engine. He had a little bit of a look round then, looked over his shoulder actually in the middle of the hairpin. That was a strange manoeuvre, but he's got it well under control, and he's actually stretched his lead a little bit there. But the Ferraris are now, I think, a little bit of a mistake somewhere from Prost has put the 2 Ferraris right up behind him, and Arnoux is beginning to get close enough to his teammate Tombay to have a look, and he's right up behind him now.
Just over 2 seconds between De Cesaris on lap 6 in the lead and Alain Prost in second place. And look how the 2 Ferraris of third place man Patrick Tombay and fourth place man René Arnoux, both Frenchmen, are starting to close up on the other Frenchman in front of them, Alain Prost, as again there's a puff of smoke from De Cesaris' car. Piquet in fifth position is being caught by Winkelhock, who is in sixth place. Keke Rosberg on lap 6 has still got Winkelhock very nicely in sight, thank you. In 8th position is Keke Rosberg's teammate Jacques Lafitte in the second of the Williams. Then in 9th place, the second of the Renault's Eddie Cheever. And Cheever has now passed Jacques Lafitte, so he is up into 8th position. Eddie Cheever driving in his first season for Renault. Now there is Prost, Tombay and Arnoux, second, third and fourth. And you'll see the red and white Alfa Romeo of Andrea De Cesaris, so it's an Italian leading, Frenchman second, third and fourth, the Brazilian Nelson Piquet in fifth position, and in sixth place the German Manfred Winkelhock, followed by the Finnish driver Keke Rosberg. There's the battle for second, and it really is starting to close up now. They're coming up to the chicane. This is 170 miles an hour. Mauro Baldi went off there in practicing and was incredibly lucky only to break a wheel and not hurt himself. De Cesaris goes through. Prost, Tombay, Arnoux, Renault, Ferrari in the background. Piquet, who's keeping the battle for third. And there is René Arnoux trying to take his teammate Patrick Tombay in third position. And we've lost it, we've missed it. And he hasn't succeeded. Into La Source, the 50-mile-an-hour right-hander.
Yes, big problem with overtaking here at Spa is that the track, even on the so-called straight, winds so much that when a driver does get alongside, or half alongside, the man in front is entitled to take his line through these sweeping curves. And so he's forever carving up the guy behind, and you never really get a proper shot at it. And it does make it very difficult indeed.
Now, there was a passing manoeuvre there, and it looked to me as though Winkelhock and Rosberg were right up with Piquet. Certainly, Rosberg is keeping Winkelhock in sight magnificently. No, there's no change there. There is Arnoux in fourth position. Piquet is still in fifth place, but Winkelhock is right up with him. And the German in the ATS, which has a turbocharged BMW engine, is driving better here than he has driven before this season. He's got a reputation for wildness like De Cesaris used to have, and he seems to be curbing that. And he's now right up with the ex-world champion Nelson Piquet, who is in fifth position. So turbocharged cars, first, second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth. Alfa Romeo, Renault, the two Ferraris, the Brabham BMW, and then the ATS BMW with Keke Rosberg. I was going to say far from disgracing himself. There's no question of him ever doing that. And there is Boutsen's car, Thierry Boutsen, being retired on lap 7. Nigel Mansell, incidentally, if those of you who are wondering where he is, the answer is last. He is right down. John Watson is in 16th place, and in 14th place on lap 7 is Derek Warwick, and hopefully starting to climb up through the field from the point of view of the Tolman team as the second, third and fourth and fifth and sixth then go through. And you can see that Keke Rosberg is still only about 3 seconds behind Patrick Tombay, who is in third place. Now there's Tombay third, Arnoux fourth, both in the Ferraris. And watch for Rosberg, there he is. Now look at Keke Rosberg in the white Williams. Keke wearing the blue helmet. They go into Eau Rouge. Now climb the hill, climbing on lap 8, all the way up past Kemmel as we look down on them. Fifth gear, 170 miles an hour, down through the gearbox into third gear. Alain Prost in second place we're looking at, into the right-hander at Les Combes. Now look for Rosberg, there he is. This is a third gear section. They start to drop down. If they could look over their shoulder, they would see the course at the bottom of the valley. Not that they'll be doing that. Prost, Tombay, Arnoux, Piquet, Winkelhock and Rosberg. It's a good 150 miles an hour here. Course flattens out. On their way down to Blanchimont.
Yes, Niki Lauda in the leading McLaren is running in a fairly solid but not very inspiring 12th place at the moment. He's stuck behind Guerrero, but as they disappeared away from our commentary position onto the long straight, he looked as if he was just about in position to have a little go at Guerrero, so he'd be pleased to move up, because I think, again, they felt better in race trim than they did on qualifying tyres. Lauda was hoping to move up through the field. The Ferraris have spread just a little bit there. Tambay is desperately trying to get on terms to have a crack at Prost, and Rosberg is getting quite close behind, but off the straight he's behind Manfred Winkelhock. But of course it's the age-old problem for the non-turbocharged cars. When they get to the straight, away go the turbos, and Rosberg, with that queue of turbos in front of him, has got a real problem.
Coming up to the end now of lap 8, they're into lap 9. Now, while we're looking at a 6th position as far as the first 6 are concerned, I'm wondering how long it will last, because Piquet is certainly catching Arnoux. There is Winkelhock in 6th position, and there is Rosberg. Consider how the refueling may change this race. And look ahead. Eddie Cheever is going to come in on lap 18. Elio De Angelis will come in on lap 19, and he's in 10th place, by the way. On lap 20, De Cesaris, the leader, is scheduled to come in. On lap 21, Rosberg and Giacomelli should be coming in together. Giacomelli, who's in 13th place in the Tolman. Then on lap 22, Prost and Jarier will come in. Lap 23, 3 of them are going to come in. Lafitte, Mansell and Baldi. Patrese is going to come in on lap 24, and last of all will be Nelson Piquet. And those numbers along the bottom of your screen indicate that on the 8th tour, Tour 8, number 22, De Cesaris is leading. And by the way, I didn't give you the Ferrari pit stop laps because I don't know, but it'll be about halfway through the race.
Well, Andrea De Cesaris is stamping his mark. You just saw him just there. He goes, going across your screen at the top. He's now got a lead of over 3 seconds, and it's really very pleasing to see. He's beginning to put some sort of authority on the race. Big question mark for De Cesaris. He is yet unproven in his ability to keep it up, although he, in fairness, has certainly in the last 12 months shown that he is capable of doing it. So it's a very big moment indeed for De Cesaris, because although obviously his car's got to get him there, he's obviously in very good form, everything's working well, and he will be under considerable pressure, because he also has to fight the I told you so's. If he does make any mistakes himself, there will be plenty of people to jump on top of him with that type of attitude, and that does increase the pressure. It's not easy for a young driver trying to make his first breakthrough. The confidence tends to come as a result of that. At the moment, he's still climbing the mountain.
I am looking hard as Prost goes past us. The gap, incidentally, between De Cesaris, the leader, and Prost in 2nd place on this, the 10th lap out of 41, is just over 5 seconds. And it looks to me as though René Arnoux, that we're looking at now, and who is in 4th place, is dropping back a bit from his teammate Tambay, and that Piquet is starting to close a bit. It's very little in it, and it could be just the rhythm of the race. But let's watch. There is Arnoux. He's out of Les Combes, now down to the Rivage, and there is John Watson. That's John Watson and Raul Boesel. It's Raul Boesel, the Brazilian driver, who is stopping, and they've obviously made contact. Watson and Boesel, that will affect John Watson very badly. Of course, he was down in 16th place, but he might have been making a charge later on.
Looks like Jarrier's helmet to me, Murray. I'm sure it's Jarrier, but that in some ways would be Jarrier was behind Watson, and it would have to be very much in keeping with Jarrier's recent form. He has acquired for himself this season, which is odd for a supposedly mature and established driver such as he's meant to be, a reputation for being very wild and uncooperative and almost sort of bad-tempered in the car. And it would look as if he has attacked Watson from the rear, or some sort of coming together in an overtaking manoeuvre, and that's most unfortunate for Watson. There, back to the leaders. There's the Chesterist going through, slowly building his lead. He's up over 4 seconds now, and I think he'll be quite pleased to see the second place stay the same, because if anybody can get past Prost, it maybe they can go a bit quicker and set about chipping into that lead, because he's only developing it very little bit by bit.
Well, apologies to Brazil. I maligned him there, and the gap now is just about 5 seconds. I'm taking the gap between Keke Rosberg and the leader. It's only 9.7 seconds. There is Rosberg, and he is in 7th place, just out of the World Championship points, driving as usual, absolutely superbly. World champion last year, and therefore the reigning world champion, and he has shown his superb driving ability all through the season, and he's not dropping back at all from the turbocharged ATS BMW of Manfred Winkelhock, who is in 6th position. And I would be very surprised if all these 6 turbocharged cars in front of Keke Rosberg there, number 1, the world champion, finish the race, in which case we can expect to see Rosberg up in the points again, and he's in 4th place in the world championship.
Yes, not just dropping back, but I would say, if anything, Rosberg might be the one guy of that leading group who could potentially go quicker. He can't get much closer to the cars in front than he is, because the effect on these high-speed corners on his aerodynamics of interference from the car in front as his wings don't work. But I would think that given a clear track, Rosberg would be able to go a little bit quicker. Whether quick enough, well, the fact of the matter, we may not know for quite some time, because he doesn't look in any immediate danger of getting a clear track, and he doesn't really look as if he's posing a major threat to Winkelhock in front, who of course has a huge power advantage.
Lap 11, and there is the leader, De Cesaris. 2nd is Prost. 3rd is Tombé. There he is. 4th, the battle between Arnoux in the red Ferrari and Piquet, who is in 5th position. Then Winkelhock there, 6th. Rosberg right behind him in 7th place. 8th is Cheever. 9th is Lafitte. 10th is De Angelis. Derek Warwick has now carved his way up from 17th to 11th place, and I hope we'll see him soon. And Roberto Guerrero is in 12th position. Look at the way Keke Rosberg is going.
Yes, Rosberg's going magnificently, but he's got yet a further problem, of course, and that is one which I say can't honestly convert. Yes, and Winkelhock seems to have lost power. His car was misfiring badly. There was a funny noise, and that will be very pleasing for Rosberg, because he's gone through. There he is. And I was about to say that with Winkelhock's reputation, which I personally can't deny or confirm, but if it's as bad as he says, Rosberg would have found it a little bit like having to do battle against the tail gunner. But anyway, the tail gunner has now put himself out of commission. Rosberg, now we will see. Rosberg was held up a bit of a gap's open, and now we can see how quickly Rosberg can close it, because that will be a pointer to us as to whether Rosberg is in fact potentially the fastest man on the circuit.
Lap 12, and the world champion is on his way. He has got past the difficult to pass Manfred Winkelhock. There is Nelson Piquet in 5th place in front of him, immediately behind René Arnoux, and Keke Rosberg is really flying. Down to Blanchimont now, out of the right and now the left-hander which he's approaching, and there was Piquet. This is the 6th position man on the way to 1 world championship point, Keke Rosberg, who is still smarting, of course, as Piquet in 5th position is right on the rear wing of René Arnoux' Ferrari. Rosberg is still smarting from those lost 6 points for his disqualification in Brazil, where he finished 2nd, and he was disqualified for being push-started from the pits after he'd had a fire. Prost there, 2nd, Tombé 3rd. Into the chicane left-hander together come Arnoux and Piquet, and Rosberg is catching them visibly now. No doubt about it. Keke Rosberg in the DFV Ford-powered Williams car is closing right up to Nelson Piquet and René Arnoux there, who are 4th and 5th. Now look for the white car of Rosberg, and I'll give you the gap between Arnoux and Rosberg. It is 2.2 seconds. Rosberg in 5th position. Behind him is now Eddie Cheever, then Lafitte and De Angelis. And Warwick has therefore moved up another place, subject to us seeing Manfred Winkelhock. Winkelhock has stopped, so Derek Warwick is now up into 8th position. And that's from 17th, so it could conceivably be that Derek Warwick is in fact the fastest man on the circuit. We haven't seen any times, and we haven't seen Derek, but there's little doubt that we will be seeing him, provided the Tolman holds together. And Piquet now challenging Arnoux, who I remind you is in 4th position behind his teammate Patrick Tambay. Now, where is Rosberg? There he is, and a blast of flame from Piquet's exhaust pipe.
Yes, well, Rosberg hasn't hauled them in dramatically quickly. He is possibly closing, but it's very marginal. And that really means that combined with his efforts, the difficulty in passing, it's going to be a hard slog for Rosberg. But he's certainly right there. He's only 10 seconds behind the leader, Andrea de Cesaris. And at the moment, Piquet is providing all the action, climbing all over the back of René Arnoux' car, but as yet hasn't really looked like passing him. But this is the closest he's been. But you see how these winding curves spoil all the chances. He got in the position and then he has to back off, and that's a bit frustrating. They're bouncing it on the curves through the chicane. They're all doing that, trying to straighten it up. And with that little dust up there, Piquet was a little bit slow out of the hairpin, out of the chicane there. Got the power on a bit slowly, and Rosberg has closed up. In the meantime, Derek Warwick is not actually closing on Andrea de Cesaris, but that is probably as much because he's in traffic at the moment, and therefore he's got slower cars to find his way around. Piquet now, here comes Piquet having a look, but into the Eau Rouge sweep, he couldn't, you really can't start mustering past people into a fast sweep like that, because there just isn't room on the line. And of course he drops back, so he's going to have to wait for another chance. But it's beginning to look as if Arnoux may have done his tyres in. Now, Arnoux has been criticised in the Ferrari team early this season for going at the early stages of the race like a bull in a china shop and overheating and overwearing his tyres and causing them, therefore, to not give it their best later on. Because all the teams obviously want to run the softest possible compound that they can get away with. That means, because the softer the compound, the more grip it gives, obviously. And but of course, the more it wears and the more it can overheat. And so what it means is that the driver is entrusted. The tyre is more susceptible to overheating and things when it's newest, because it has more rubber on in which to build up heat, and of course more movement in the tread. And that means that if you don't drive it carefully, and you should not slide the car about too much. Arnoux's been accused by his team of sliding it about too much, and he certainly seems to be slowing down a bit now. Tambay is getting away in front, and Piquet is getting very excited behind him. Whoops, and you see how the car went all skittish when he got that wheel up on the curb. They're a bit slippery, those curbs, and they're quite high, but he's undaunted. And of course, Rosberg is right there now, ready to field up any errors, but of course, powerless in two senses to do anything.
4th, 5th and 6th together, Arnoux, Piquet and Rosberg leading the race. Andrea de Cesaris, 2nd Alain Prost, 3rd Patrick Tambay, and they're coming up now to complete lap 14. And Keke Rosberg has now closed right up on Nelson Piquet. Having got past Winkelhock, they go into La Source. Ferrari, Brabham and Williams absolutely together. 4th, 5th and 6th down to Eau Rouge. Now this is where the turbocharged cars ought to be able to pull away, because they're climbing the hill up from Kemmel to Les Combes, and that's where they get a power advantage.
Yes, I must surmise that René Arnoux is in tyre trouble, because there was nothing else apparently visibly wrong with his car, and he's definitely started quite suddenly and sharply to lose ground at more than a second a lap to his teammate Tambay, with whom he was circulating quite happily just a couple of laps ago. And of course we got the Piquet situation. So it's very frustrating indeed for Nelson Piquet, because as he sits there stuck behind Arnoux, he sees the people he wants to be racing disappearing off into an ever-increasing lead, which gives him more work later on. And I would think he'll be scratching his head quite hard trying to work out a way around the very powerful turbocharged Ferrari, but he's got to do it.
Now behind these three, 7 seconds behind them, is Eddie Cheever in the Renault in 7th place, and he is 11 seconds ahead of Jacques Lafitte, who is 8th. Derek Warwick is in 9th place, and don't forget that Andrea De Cesare is driving the race of his life, because he has now completed 14 laps. He's on his 15th, he's still in the lead, and Piquet is now trying to get close enough to be able to draft his way past René Arnoux. And if Arnoux, and we're guessing, is indeed in tyre trouble, if his tyres are starting to go off, Piquet will be picking his moment. They are on different makes of tyre. We've said this before, it's highly significant in motor racing these days. The Ferraris, and that means to say Arnoux, use Goodyear tyres, and the Brabhams, and that means to say Piquet, use Michelin tyres, and it could be that the compound of one is just slightly superior to the other. And look at Keke Rosberg, and he's right up now. You could hardly put a stopwatch between them as they come past, and I'll give you the gap between Arnoux and Rosberg. It is a whisker, under a second. That's Eau Rouge. Now they're onto this long drag, which doesn't look much of a gradient on your screen, but I can tell you that when you walk up it is. And René Arnoux holding his advantage. The gap between Tombay and Arnoux, incidentally, Tombay in 3rd position and Arnoux in 4th, is 6 seconds, and again Piquet closes on the corner. René Arnoux.
Yes, Arnoux, after being a little bit wild, or apparently wild for the first couple of laps, I think has clocked that he's got to keep it smooth even if he's in tyre trouble, and is now playing it, appears to me to be playing it quite cannily, keeping it on line, blocking a bit, and Piquet, very frustrating for Piquet. This is the most terrible moment for a driver. The guy in front is in trouble. He has no obligation to move over and make space for you. The onus is on you to find a way around, and this track, with it has the old overrun flame and Piquet's turbocharger, that extra fuel that gets pumped in on the throttle overrun, gets just ignited. Quite safe, quite normal. It's not anything wrong with the car, but Arnoux seems to be playing it quite candidly. But if he's stuck behind somebody and your rivals being gradually handed a bigger and bigger lead on the plate when you know you should be out there doing something about it, really is a very disheartening and difficult thing, and I suppose the only thing that relieves it slightly is the fact that that's motor racing, and one has occasions when the boot's on the other foot and you're a person defending a place that you don't really hold on merit, but you were there to start off with.
And it's Andrea De Cesare going strong, is leading by 4.3 seconds now, and it's a pity as far as Andrea De Cesare is concerned that there's this tremendous scrap for 4th, 5th and 6th places, because we're not seeing anything of him, and he's driving a magnificent race. And now is Piquet going to do it? Piquet changes place with René Arnoux, and we have a new 4th place man on lap 17. And now we're going to be able to see how much, if at all, René Arnoux was holding up Nelson Piquet. Yes, look at Piquet pulling away, and look at Keke Rosberg now doing to Arnoux what Piquet did, because Rosberg, in the leading 3-litre normally aspirated car, still in 6th position, has got a new 5th place man ahead of him, and Nelson Piquet is on his way. Now, I was about to say that it's extremely critical to Nelson Piquet that he move up through the field, because he's leading the World Championship with 21 points, and he is now in 4th position, and Rosberg is trying to take Arnoux. And in the 2nd place in the World Championship is Alain Prost with 19 points.
Yes, I'm afraid we've got an unfortunate problem with the director here, who obviously hasn't seen a motor race before, because Rosberg was having a dive up the inside of René Arnoux then. He failed to achieve it. We didn't see how he failed, but he was certainly having a go. And have a go is what he's got to do, because it's going to be quite a shut the eyes and pray manoeuvre to get past that Ferrari, but it'll be of major concern to Rosberg. And you can see the trouble that Arnoux did, because Piquet, who was running with him, is now streaking away, and Arnoux is capable of holding up Rosberg for quite a long time, unless he can find some pretty solid answer pretty quickly.
Yeah, and Eddie Cheever is now starting to catch Rosberg. It looks as though René Arnoux, in going slower and making it very difficult, first of all for Piquet to get past him, and now for Rosberg, is allowing Cheever, and there is Cheever, who is in 7th place, to catch them. So Piquet goes round La Source in 4th position. Arnoux 5th, Rosberg 6th, and now look for the yellow Renault. There it is, of Eddie Cheever. He is now in 7th position, and he's catching the Williams in front of him, which is dropping back a bit from René Arnoux in 5th place. Nelson Piquet pulling away, and on lap 18 it is Andrea de Cesaris in the lead. It is Alain Prost in 2nd place. It is Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari 3rd. In 4th position now it's Nelson Piquet. 5th is René Arnoux. 6th is Keke Rosberg. 7th there is Cheever. 8th is Jacques Lafitte in the 2nd Williams. And in 9th position Derek Warwick, who's still going well in the turbocharged Toleman. 10th place in the 2nd Toleman is Bruno Giacomelli. So it's good news for the Toleman concern at the present moment. And we are on lap 18. It's a 41 lap race. Arnoux and Rosberg, 5th and 6th. Piquet, you can see Piquet, there's the stab of flame as he goes onto the overrun with his turbocharged BMW engine. And René Arnoux, who must have expected when he left the Renault team with such bad feelings the end of last year because of falling out with his then teammate Alain Prost, to do much better when he went to Ferrari, hasn't done much better, because totally unexpectedly Patrick Tambay, his teammate, has overshadowed him. Patrick Tambay, who is now in 3rd position on lap 18, and he's in 3rd position in the World Championship. Now, Arnoux goes through, and look how Cheever is catching Rosberg. And is he going through? No, he won't, because Rosberg moves across, and Cheever is still in 7th place.
Yes, but that's a situation that can't last. It's very unfortunate for poor Keke, because he's held up from the front, and Cheever, meanwhile, has got bags of lovely Renault power, so while Keke can't go forward, as it were, which on his own, without Arnoux holding him up, he would be able to, he's a sitting duck for Eddie Cheever to pass him.
Now, if the information I was given is correct, something very significant is about to happen, because Eddie Cheever is due to come in on the 18th lap, which he's just completed, and to be the first car to refuel. And we're probably going to see a complete change of order. In fact, we will see a complete change of order. And this race is going to be very difficult to follow, as all the lead cars, one by one, come into refuel and take on about another 25 gallons of petrol, take on new tyres, new wheels, and they will therefore, of course, go much quicker when they come out of the pits on fresh rubber. And I say, I would expect Eddie Cheever to be coming in at the end of this lap, so maybe that's why the director's keeping a good weather eye on him. He should know that Cheever's going to be the first to come in. And there is Elio De Angelis. He's been in. Now, that was very much earlier than we were expecting, because De Angelis, no, lap 19, he's absolutely on target. Elio De Angelis was due to come in on lap 19, and he's done it. And De Cesaris, the leader, is due to come in on lap 20, and there is Cheever, who must surely be coming into the pits at the end of this lap. He is in 7th place. There's Keke Rosberg ahead of him, who is 6th. Arnoux is still 5th. Piquet 4th. Tambay 3rd. Prost 2nd. And De Cesaris in the Alfa Romeo that we haven't seen for a long, long time comes into the pits. Andrea De Cesaris, the leader, making his pit stop. Now, this is going to be absolutely critical. If the Alfa Romeo mechanics fumble it, De Cesaris, there's the right front has been changed. Up go the pneumatic hammers. Down go the jacks. It's not a terribly good stop. In fact, it's a very bad stop. And they're having trouble with the fuel cap. And De Cesaris blasts out 25.3 seconds, and that's a bad pit stop.
Yes, and very slow on the left rear wheel as well. In fact, on the left front, they look to be, the chaps look to be almost pedestrian. But mind you, that's better than panicking, because that's how the real messes come in the pit stops. But that'll be De Cesaris will be very disappointed, but that may well throw him into a bit of a chase, and he's proved he's got the form to do some chasing. So the pit stops have started, and we can see it all start to change.
And I reckon that De Cesaris must now be down to 7th or 8th position. No, he's in 6th position. And there is Eddie Cheever that we were expecting to come in, who of course has moved up a place with De Cesaris having gone into the pits. That means to say that Cheever will be currently running in 6th place, and ahead of him Keke Rosberg in 5th position on lap 20. And with De Cesaris having finished his pit stop, Keke Rosberg or Jacques Lafitte will be coming in on this lap, if the information I've been given is correct, and we swoop across the circuit. And Keke Rosberg has got to beat a time of 25.3 to gain some time on the pit stop with Andrea De Cesaris. And that is Alain Prost, who is now leading the Belgian Grand Prix at just about half distance. Lap 20 out of 41 into the chicane. Now look back and see how far Patrick Torbay is behind him. Well, a long distance. It's about 6 seconds. And what about the pits? Is anybody coming into the pits now? This is lap 20. This is the new leader, Alain Prost, with Patrick Torbay second, Piquet third, fourth is Arnoux, fifth is Rosberg, and sixth back in the running after his pit stop, Andrea De Cesaris. And there is the race leader, Alain Prost. He is on lap 21. And he is some 4 seconds ahead of, no more than that now, it's about 6 seconds ahead of Patrick Torbay in the Ferrari, who is in 2nd place, and he's not in sight as the leader goes round. We're hearing a lot of commotion here. I suspect that there's a pit stop going on that we can't see and that we are not being shown, because there is now an enormous gap between Alain Prost, the race leader, who is in 2nd position. Arnoux has gone through, and Cheever has passed Keke Rosberg, and there is the first Toleman into the pits, and that will be Bruno Giacomelli into the pits. We only get a quick look at him, and that is Manfred Winkelhock out of the race. He had trouble, he came into the pits, and it looks as though he's either overcooked his tyres or made a mistake. But anyway, he is off and out of the race on lap 21. He joins Riccardo Patrese, who is retired. He joins Boutsen, and now let's look at this. This is a replay of Winkelhock going off. Yes, look at his wheel. Right off comes Winkelhock's wheel, and the car, of course, spins completely out of control as the wheel goes on by itself, and he slams through the catch fencing and into the Armco. Manfred Winkelhock out of the race, and he was 6th.
Yes, no mistake there from Winkelhock. You saw how the car suddenly, even in slow motion, it whipped round as the wheel went adrift, and it's a strange thing when a car does that to you. You're never quite sure if you made a mistake or not. So Winkelhock there, he's looking pretty confused. He realises obviously that he didn't think he did anything wrong, but the car swaps ends so quickly you don't know. So he's holding a post-mortem, probably asking him if anything flew off it, and of course the eyewitnesses will undoubtedly be able to tell him there's a wheel missing a long way away, so he will know. Anyway, back to Alain Prost, who's now leading by some 12 seconds from Patrick Tambay, as far as the information that we have at the moment.
No, Piquet is up into 2nd place, and we must have missed, or we have not been shown. There is Tambay in the pits, and I can tell you that with Patrick Tambay into the pits, with Alain Prost not having made his stop, and due to do so at the end of the 22nd lap as Tambay leaves, there is the race leader, but we have a new 2nd place man, Nelson Piquet, who is not due to come into the pits until the 26th lap and the last of the refuelers that we know about. But at the present moment, on lap 22, Alain Prost leads in the Renault. Piquet has moved up to second place thanks to Patrick Tambay stopping to take on fuel. André de Cesaris is now in third position, having made his pit stop. René Arnoux is in fourth place. In fifth place is Eddie Cheever, and in sixth place is Jacques Lafitte, because we're almost certain that Rosberg has been into the pits. I'm sorry if we sound vague, but we haven't seen a pit stop on our monitor, and we can't see the pits from here, so your guess is as good as ours. But anyway, it is Piquet leading, it is Prost leading, it is Piquet second, it is now De Cesaris is up into third position, and in fourth place is Tambay, in fifth place is Arnoux, and in sixth place is Cheever. Confusing, isn't it? Race leader. Well, this we do know. And this we also know, that Alain Prost has got to come into the pits to refuel soon.
Yes, mighty confusing, and of course we won't get a real picture until such time as everybody's completed their stop and they've all gone out and settled down again. But the exciting thing is in this situation that we had a very close bunch up front to start with of all these pit callers, and that of course means that the pit stops are going to be absolutely critical. 4 seconds wasted in the pits, or 4 seconds gained in the pits, it can make pretty big swings, and we've already seen that De Cesaris had a very slow stop, but he's well up there because Prost and Piquet are in front of him and are yet to stop, so they've got a fair bit of time to lose, and that could put De Cesaris, he's 28 seconds behind Alain Prost at the moment, and that's about what a good pit stop takes with decelerating and accelerating time, possibly a little bit less than that, so they expect, if we get a good stop from Prost, I expect to see him and De Cesaris very close together on the road. Goes Prost on his way, and we're expecting him to stop pretty soon.
That's Jacques Lafitte, that's not Nelson Piquet. Take no notice of the caption, because it was Jacques Lafitte. And now, as we look at the leader on lap 23, it is Alain Prost here in the Renault, in charge of the Belgian Grand Prix, but still to make his pit stop. Second is Piquet, who has not pit stopped. Third is De Cesaris, who has pit stopped. Fourth is Tambay, who has pit stopped. Fifth is René Arnoux, who as far as we know has not. Sixth is Eddie Cheever, who has not. Seventh is Jacques Lafitte, who has. And now, as I talk to you, Jacques Lafitte has been displaced by a flying Derek Warwick, who is in 7th position in the British Tolman, but has yet, we believe, to make his pit stop. And into the pit comes, now let's have a close look at this, it's Prost. Alain Prost, the race leader, is into the pits. He stops, and the digital readout starts, and I have started my stopwatch. How does his pit stop compare with André de Cesaris's, which was a very bad one, you will recall, when he was in the lead, 25.3 seconds, and the hammers go up and out goes Prost, 14.4 seconds.
Yes, excellent pit stop there by the Renault team, and you notice that they got the fuel in something like 8 or 9 seconds, and tire change was the hold-up. And there is Patrick Tambay, who, well, we haven't got a place now with Prost. We're not quite sure where Prost has rejoined, but Tambay is certainly right up there, but we're as confused as you are for just a moment, but we're beginning to get the picture, and we'll let you know as soon as we can.
And yes, it is Nelson Piquet leading, and out goes Arnoux. Lap 24, René Arnoux in the Ferrari is out of the Belgian Grand Prix. Yet another crushing disappointment for the little Frenchman, who only finished 10th in Brazil, who was 3rd in Long Beach, no points in France, failed to finish at Monaco, and that means to say that up into the points, as we look at Patrick Tambay, comes Derek Warwick in the Tolman, and it's Nelson Piquet on lap 24 who is leading from in 2nd position. Alain Prost, who is in the pits, of course, in 3rd position. De Cesaris, who will therefore have moved up a place.
Yes, but the point is that Prost has got out of the pits ahead of De Cesaris, as far as I can see, and that is interesting because he's picked up on the road what De Cesaris lost in the pits with his slow stop. So De Cesaris has got a battle. For the moment, ignore Piquet as the leader in a way, because although he's up there, he still hasn't made his stop. But the important thing, of course, is the Prost and De Cesaris battle, and how quickly Piquet can get in and out of the pits and get tacked onto the tail of that battle. He won't, I don't think, be out in front of it.
And there is Piquet. Lap 26 is when he's due to come in, according to my information. He's just coming up to complete his 24th lap, and he's coming in. Here is Nelson Piquet then, leading the race, and Prost goes through and takes the lead. He was only 2 seconds behind Piquet. So, as the Brazilian ex-world champion comes into the pits for what we expect to be, and usually is a superlatively good Brabham, well drilled, and look at that! That is absolutely sensational. Up go the hammers, but something is holding them. One of the wheels, and out goes Piquet. Not particularly good. And it was about the same time as Alain Prost. And that means to say that Nelson Piquet, as we look at Alain Prost, the new race leader, again on lap 25, Nelson Piquet is going to be about, I estimate, 12 seconds behind Alain Prost in the Renault. They are both, of course, on half loads of petrol now. They are both on new tyres.
Yes, Piquet has rejoined, and he's got Patrick Tambay right up his chuff, and Tambay, of course, has already made his stop. He's got his tyres hot, and I would anticipate that Tambay should be able to slip by Piquet in the course of this first lap, while Piquet's feeling his way on cold tyres, warming them up. So it's beginning to settle down now. We have Prost leading quite comfortably by about 9 seconds from De Cesaris, and yes, Piquet is in front, did go past in front of Tambay, but Tambay was right behind him.
Well, on lap 25, irrespective of what you saw on that caption there, in the lead now is Alain Prost. There he is. In second place is De Cesaris, who has carved up through the field because he's on that half load of petrol with new tyres, like most of the lead men now. In third position, it is Nelson Piquet, and Tambay is right with him in fourth place. In fifth place is Eddie Cheever in the Renault, and Rosberg is in sixth position. There is the race leader. He's coming up to one of the Tyrrells on his 25th lap as he goes across the grid down to last year. He's chasing Danny Sullivan, the American driver who got points in Monaco. He finished in fifth position to get 2 points. And now watch Sullivan. Sullivan signals Alain Prost to pass him. Alain Prost goes to the side of the circuit, kicks up the dust at Eau Rouge, accelerates away up the hill, leaves Danny Sullivan's DFV-powered Tyrrell, because the Renault is producing about 640 brake horsepower, whereas Sullivan's Tyrrell is producing about 500. And look at it again, a replay. Watch Prost as he moves out to the side, kick up the dust. It's very loose on the side of the circuit, and he goes past Sullivan.
Well, contrary to my prediction that Tambay on warm tyres would get past Piquet, he has failed to do so. So now, with all the leading men having stopped, Alain Prost is enjoying something like just under 9-second lead over Andrea De Cesaris. Nelson Piquet is a further 12 seconds behind De Cesaris, and Tambay is right behind Nelson Piquet. Eddie Cheever is not far away, another 3 seconds behind them, and then there's a bit of a gap now to Keke Rosberg in 6th place. So we've got a few little battles, but the main interest for us at the moment is to see if De Cesaris, now that they've settled down, is in any way able to close up on Alain Prost towards the finish. And of course, if Piquet and Tambay can do anything about the leaders.
Prost there, second in the World Championship with 19 points. The World Championship leader, Nelson Piquet, has 21 points, and he's currently in third position. And where we've lost for the moment De Cesaris, we've lost Andrea De Cesaris, who was in second position some 8 or 9 seconds behind Alain Prost. There is Sullivan coming up to the chicane. By the way, his teammate Michele Alboreto is only down in 11th place. And on lap 26, as we wait to see who comes through in second position, we're at the chicane. We've seen Alain Prost, the race leader, through. Is it going to be De Cesaris? No, it's Piquet. De Cesaris is certainly missing. So Piquet on lap 26 is second. Torbay there, just behind him, is third. And there behind Torbay in fourth position is Eddie Cheever. So the two Renaults are in first and fourth position, as Piquet in second place and Torbay in third in the Ferrari come down to La Source on the 27th lap out of 41. Still a long way to go, but we now know that the cars that matter up at the front have completed their pit stops. By the way, Derek Warwick has been in and made a pit stop, and that of course has dropped him down the field. He is, Derek Warwick, currently in 9th position. He was 10th and now he's come up a place. And here is Patrick Tambay chasing Nelson Piquet on lap 27. He's in third place. Look for Cheever, there he was. And when we pull back a bit, look for Nelson Piquet in the there he is in the turbocharged Brabham. So Turbo Renault leads, Turbo Brabham second, Turbo Ferrari, there it is in third place. Frenchman leads, Brazilian second. The Frenchman Patrick Tambay there is third position. In fourth place, American Eddie Cheever in fifth position. And going well is Keke Rosberg, and that means to say, that will be De Cesaris' car. There is De Cesaris' stricken Euro Alpha out for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. The car looks perfectly all right. Obviously something must have broken. They had some electrical trouble in practice. Maybe it's a repetition of that. And after 26 laps, they're on the 27th. There is the order and the gap. Prost, Piquet, Tambay, Cheever, Rosberg, Lafitte, and the two Williams are in the top 6.
Yes, there's a great shame for Andrea De Cesaris. Obviously, it would appear to be some sort of mechanical failure. The car looks quite healthy externally, so he hasn't attacked anything with it, which will be of some importance to him. But of great disappointment, of course, Will, that he had a chance of catching that gap to Alain Prost and putting on a really heroic drive, and it would have been nice for him to do so. Now, in the meantime, Niki Lauda has moved up into 7th place, and he's right behind Jacques Lafitte and has been attacking him for some time now. They're a bit out of touch with Rosberg, but Lauda fights to get into the bottom of the points situation, and that he'd very much like to do because he's got a reasonable collection already, but it certainly needs bolstering up a bit. Rosberg, in the meantime, now has lost touch a bit with the turbos. He's 13 seconds behind Eddie Cheever in 4th place, and so we must keep an eye on that to see if Rosberg is making any impression.
But once again, the Williams reliability is showing. Rosberg and Lafitte in 5th and 6th positions, and the top two 3-litre cars, as we look at the charming Frenchman Patrick Tambay chasing Nelson Piquet. They are on lap 28. There are 13 laps to go at the end of this one, in this reduced by 1 lap race, 41 instead of 42 laps. Each of those laps over 4.3 miles, and that of course explains why the leader has only lapped up to the 13th man, because the course is roughly at least 25% longer than most of them these days. The 13th man being Mark Schurer. And out of the Belgian Grand Prix have gone Riccardo Patrese very early on in the race, lap 2, Thierry Boutsen, Mauro Baldi, Jean-Pierre Jarier, Winkelhock, René Arnoux and De Cesaris. And of course John Watson, who went out as a result of that coming together that he had with Jean-Pierre Jarier. Piquet there through. There is Patrick Tambay, and mercifully the rain which we were dreading and half expecting has held off. There's no sign of it. I look up into the sky as I talk to you. It's pretty heavily overcast, but the light is bright, the course is dry. There is the 3rd place man, Patrick Tambay, and Eddie Cheever is about 2 or 3 seconds. Look for the Renault. Well, we followed Patrick Tombay, so you just missed Eddie Cheever, but he is about 5 seconds behind Patrick Tombay. There is the Frenchman down to Eau Rouge, where the cars, some of them, bottom on the little skid steel, toughened steel parts of the car that are there just for that purpose. And Patrick Tombay now on up Kemmel underneath what will be a footbridge next year, because they've only just got this revised and shortened Spa-Francorchamps circuit finished in time for the race, and there are all sorts of details that have yet to be completed. Lap 29. We are looking at the man who is in third position in the World Championship, carrying that very famous number 27, which James had at one time, which Alan Jones won 11 races with, and which then the great Gilles Villeneuve had, and now, to the delight of the Italian Ferrari aficionados, is carried by Patrick Tombay, who won with it at Imola this year and at Germany last year. So Tombay on his way, and the race is, for the time being, pretty static, but the moment you say that these days, something dramatic seems to happen. Tombay third, ahead of him Piquet, ahead of Piquet is Prost. All those three have made their pit stops. Eddie Cheever must have been in unseen by us. And in fourth position then Cheever, followed by the fifth and sixth completing the World Championship points position, Keke Rosberg and his teammate Jacques Lafitte. They're coming up to the chicane. That will be Michele Alboreto from the look of him in the Tyrrell. There's Piquet. There's Tombay. It looks to me as though Tombay's actually closing up a bit on Nelson Piquet. We'll see what the gap is when they go up to La Source or past us. We're just out. There is Piquet, and the gap between Piquet and Tombay is 1.94 seconds, and Tombay is most certainly closing up on the second place man, the Brazilian ex-world champion, down to the Eau Rouge again. It's a V6 turbocharged car, the Ferrari. It is a straight 4 turbocharged car, the BMW turbo-powered Brabham of Nelson Piquet. Now they're going up to Les Combes, the highest point on the circuit. You can see how it overlooks the magnificent Ardennes countryside. But of far greater interest to Patrick Tombay is overlooking Nelson Piquet a bit closer, like overlooking his gearbox and then taking the chance to pull out and go past and take second position. But it's terribly important to Piquet that he should at least stay in second position, because now, if the first three finish in the same places that they are in on this, the 30th lap, in this 41-lap race, Alain Prost would take the World Championship lead by a mere 1 point. He's on his way to 9 points for victory. Nelson Piquet is on his way to 6 points for second place. And Patrick Tombay there is on his way to 4 points for third position. And Piquet has got past the Tyrrell. And that would lower the gap between himself and Prost. It would make the gap between himself and Prost 1 point. And currently, Nelson Piquet is 2 points ahead of the Frenchman. And the Frenchman has yet to win the World Championship. Tombay goes past. And it's Danny Sullivan, actually, not Michele Alboreto. Lap 31. Prost leads. Piquet that we look at second. Tombay that we look at third. Cheever in the background behind the green Tyrrell is fourth. Keke Rosberg and Jacques Lafitte fifth and sixth. Niki Lauda, who had a pretty dreadful practice on the first day, the Friday, is in seventh position. And here is Patrick Tombay on a replay, surging past Danny Sullivan, who is in 14th place. That's the man who finished fifth at Monaco.
Yes, it seems the chances of a three-way battle for second place have now largely waned, because Eddie Cheever is steadily dropping back. He's now some 7 or more seconds behind Patrick Tombay, so it's being left to Nelson Piquet to provide the challenge for Tombay to get by, and Tombay is really giving it plenty of go. Meanwhile, as Murray said, we've never had a world champion from France yet, but Alain Prost does not look as if he's going to take forever to put that right, even if it's not this year. He's been threatening now for 3 seasons, showing great talent, and right from his start in Formula One, he always drove with great maturity, and he looks mighty dominant out there in front. He's now got a comfortable lead, 26, 27 seconds, which he's just nursing. He won't be pushing forward to try and extend that. He'll just be trying to get the car home comfortably, get himself home comfortably in one piece. Usual business for a comfortable leader, and he is well equipped and well experienced to do that. So I would have to say that it's really only likely that something could go wrong with his car to take him out.
Now, here is a sensational development, and this really is something. We have had unofficial news that the Brabham team and Nelson Piquet is in second position are likely to be protesting the Renault cars. The reason for that is that Renault have revised the bodywork at the back of the car, allegedly to prevent the exhaust pipes from overheating the rear tyres, but I understand that the Brabham team thinks that this affects the aerodynamics against the rules of the Renault cars, and if that is true, and I emphasise that that is totally unofficial, but if that is true and we have it from a most authoritative source, there will be another one of these dreadful Formula One World Championship Grand Prix wrangles, and it could mean that if Alain Prost wins the race, he might lose that place, in which case he would lose his 9 points, in which case Nelson Piquet would be promoted to first position and would get the 9 points that Prost thought he had won. But all this is nevertheless hypothesis, albeit, I believe, very well informed and knowledgeable hypothesis. But there's Piquet second at the moment, Torbay in third position, and we now have another joker in the pack in the form of, is there going to be a protest from Brabham about the Renault cars, which we are told is going to happen irrespective of where or whether the Renaults finish, and they are currently in first and fourth places. Alain Prost leading, Cheever in second place, and I remind you that Keke Rosberg and Lafitte are 5th and 6th on lap 32 out of 41, so almost anything could happen, particularly as Patrick Torbay there is certainly not giving up. He has got Nelson Piquet in second place in front of him, and not very far in front of him, and Torbay can see what the challenge is. He knows what he's got to do. The question is, can he do it? There's Piquet. There is Torbay. We haven't seen Prost for a long time, but he is now about 27 seconds ahead of Nelson Piquet as the Brazilian. There is Prost. Over the line goes Alain Prost. Now, I've started my stopwatch, and I'll tell you what the gap is between the race leader, Alain Prost, in the Renault on lap 33 out of 41, and Nelson Piquet with Patrick Torbay right behind him as Prost comes up the incline at Kemmel into the right-hander at Les Combes in third gear, and as he goes there, Nelson Piquet goes past 23.7 seconds behind Prost and 3.4 seconds ahead of Patrick Torbay. There's the race leader, and Eddie Cheever is comfortably holding fourth position. He's not challenging Patrick Torbay at all. He's a long way now. He's some 16 seconds ahead of Keke Rosberg, who is fifth, and Keke Rosberg is some 20 seconds ahead of Jacques Lafitte. Rosberg has just passed me as you look at Alain Prost, and Rosberg's Ford V8 Cosworth engine sounds crisp, clean, and very sturdy indeed. So he's on his way. I'm waiting for Jacques Lafitte as Alain Prost goes through the right and the left on his way to Blanchimont, the lowest point of the course. That's the double apex right-hander. Jacques Lafitte is through in sixth position, and Lauda is very close now to Jacques Lafitte. You're not seeing this, I have seen it. Niki Lauda in seventh place is closing up with Jacques Lafitte. And Derek Warwick is still in 10th position. Nigel Mansell is in 15th place. John Watson, of course, is out of the race. And Nigel Mansell, as I tell you, is 15th, is missing. He's failed to pass us when we were expecting him to. And not failing, going well, Alain Prost goes over the grid, round the left-hander before the slowest corner on the course at La Source. First gear, 50 miles an hour. He's closing up on Michele Alboreto in the Tyrrell, who is in 11th position. Watch Alain Prost takes Michele Alboreto, who signals to him, pass me on the left. Prost needs no second invitation. Absolutely blasts past with that tremendous horsepower advantage he's got.
It is interesting how the class drivers, and Alboreto certainly underlines himself as a class driver, how they always see the leaders coming and let them through. It's quite extraordinary, and yet the non-class drivers seem almost never to see them, or hardly ever. Anyway, that was good work by Alboreto, because there's absolutely no reason not to let him through. He has nobody around him that he's immediately racing with. He can afford to lose 50 yards on the road, which it would cost him to back off and wave Prost through, and now Prost can go through happily on his way. But it's all very straightforward for him at the moment. The battle is the Piquet-Tambay battle, and there you are. You see him just pull off the line. He had to lift a little to let him through, and all plain sailing. Nobody gets aggravated. Very nice stuff. And but back to the Piquet-Tambay battle, are we? They're still on Alain Prost, who's still picking off the back markers. Well, they're not so far back actually at the moment. He's getting right amongst them.
The real interest in terms of possible place changes is the situation between Jacques Lafitte in 6th position and behind him Niki Lauda in 7th place in the Marlboro McLaren. There's 2.4 seconds behind them at the moment, but it looks to me as though Niki Lauda is not catching the Frenchman at all. As the Theodore goes out of the chicane, that will be either Guerrero or Johnny Ciccotta. I didn't see them closely enough to identify, but Alain Prost is coming up now to, and look at that. Now you see the whole of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and you see why everybody who is here is so lyrical about it. Look at the countryside around it. You can see the gradient. The part of the course to the right is very, very much lower than the part to the left as you look at the picture. And you can see the La Source hairpin, first gear, 50 miles an hour at the bottom of your picture. You can see the climb up through Eau Rouge to Kemmel. You can see the right, left, right at Les Combes, or you could, as Nelson Piquet comes down in 2nd position. And I wonder if we're going to see how far behind him now. There is Patrick Tambay in 3rd position, and the gap between Piquet and Tambay, Piquet in the Brabham and Tambay in the Ferrari, is 3.2 seconds. And there, look at Tambay coming up to Les Combes, taking Alboreto, and Tambay now in 2nd position. Patrick Tambay is 2nd, and Piquet has dropped back. So, Prost leading, Piquet down to 3rd position, and there you see the gap between Tambay and Piquet. So Patrick Tambay is very much going extremely well, and Nelson Piquet is clearly in some sort of trouble. It won't be, I can't imagine, driver error. Piquet won't be tired because he's got a lot of experience of the distance that you have to drive over a Grand Prix. So something is amiss with the Brabham BMW, which could mean the tyres, could mean the engine, is unlikely to mean anything else. But for whatever reason, Patrick Tambay, certainly one of the men of the 1983 season who has been incredibly consistent, 5th in Brazil, went off at Long Beach when he was nudged in the lead by Keke Rosberg, 4th in France, he won at San Marino, and that is the McLaren pit, and that must be Niki Lauda, it is. Niki Lauda in the pit, and that means to say that the battle, and Lauda is out. Niki Lauda, like his teammate, retires from the 1983 Belgian Grand Prix. His teammate John Watson already out, and here is the new lead, the new second place man, Patrick Tombay, chasing the Renault of Alain Prost. And where is Nelson Piquet? Not even in sight. So is Cheever going to go up to third? Is Rosberg going to go up to fourth? Is Lafitte going to go up to fifth? And currently, Giacomelli and Warwick are right behind Lafitte. So we could see a Toleman getting its first ever World Championship point, and it would be Bruno Giacomelli if he and Warwick maintain stations at the present as they are at the present moment. And there's quite a long gap between them. There's something like 20 seconds between Bruno Giacomelli, who was, or still is, in 7th position. No, he's up into 6th position, or getting very close to it. We're checking now with the situation with Niki Lauda. Well, there we are. There's the confirmation. 15 Prost lead, 27 Torbay second, 5 Piquet in 3rd position, Cheever number 16 in 4th place, 1 Rosberg and 2 Lafitte. And there is Patrick Torbay. He is on his 36th lap in this 41-lap race. And I was saying that he had won at San Marino. He was 4th in Monaco last weekend and is in 3rd position in the World Championship. Well, if they finish in the positions that they're in now, and subject to whether or not this alleged possible protest by the Brabham team about the Renault's happening, it would mean that Prost would take the lead in the World Championship, and it's going to be a very close thing for second place between Piquet and Tombay. There would only be 2 points in it, with Piquet on 25 and Tombay on 23. So the World Championship is very much alive, and as we look at Prost coming down to complete his 36th lap, in fact he's now done it, let us not forget that there is a very important Constructors' Championship at the 2, which is even closer. Ferrari leading Renault by 2 points, and now Prost is coming up to challenge Elio De Angelis, who is in 9th position in the turbocharged Renault-powered John Player Special, and Prost is catching him as they come up to Les Combes and going through. The Renault handles very, very much better than the JPS. In fact, Elio De Angelis has had another rather miserable weekend, not at all happy with the handling of his car. And Prost is away. He's on his 37th lap now. And on that 37th lap, as we look at Alain Prost taking on a replay Elio De Angelis, and on his way to his 7th Grand Prix win in his career. And he only started in Formula 1 in 1980 when he drove for McLaren, got 5 points in the World Championship in his first year, and then moved on to Renault in 1981. This diminutive Frenchman, who looks as though he really wouldn't have the strength to handle a Grand Prix car. But my goodness, he has, and his wiry body has obviously got an enormous amount of stamina, because he's running on without any problem at all. And this year, unlike last year, when the Renaults had a lot of turbocharger problems and blew them, they seem to have overcome them this year, and it looks as though Prost, in a reliable Renault, is really on his way to another Grand Prix win on lap 37 coming down to the chicane. And that would, of course, give Renault the lead in the Constructors' Championship, subject to all the other things I've been hypothesising about.
Well, whatever trouble Piquet's in, it's obviously serious enough, slowing him down enough for Eddie Cheever to now be catching him pretty quickly, so expect Cheever to shortly be challenging for Piquet's 3rd place. So that'll come as some big disappointment for Piquet, but he will then have a reasonable cushion over Keke Rosberg. He's now only 2 seconds in front of Eddie Cheever, but then there's a gap of some 15 seconds to Keke Rosberg. So one must anticipate probably that he's not going to be able to stay ahead of Cheever for the remainder of the race, but he may well be able to fend off Rosberg, just depending on whether his trouble gets any worse or not.
Piquet and Cheever down to La Source together at the end of their 37th lap. Piquet in 3rd position, Cheever in 4th, And let's see how the young American, Eddie Cheever, in car number 16, 25 years old from Monte Carlo, in his 45th Grand Prix, deals with the 1981 world champion Nelson Piquet. On the right, the Brabham BMW, and past him. And surely Piquet's in real trouble, goes Eddie Cheever.
Well, he maybe have an engine cut-out problem through that through left-handers or something. I was thinking maybe he's in brake trouble because his engine sounded fine past us, and he went through Eau Rouge very quickly. So he's got some other problem. You see, he slowed right down there and just sailed straight past him. But he's not in a braking zone. But there was a slight left-hand kink, so it's very difficult to tell from our little perches.
Well, whatever the reason, there is the situation with Eddie Cheever, who, as I've said before, is on his fourth constructor since he moved to Formula One, with Nelson Piquet closing up now, and Eddie Cheever, who drove for Osella and then Tyrrell and then Ligier and now Renault. And Nelson Piquet seems to have got a fresh lease of life. He's right up close with the Renault. It looks to me as though it's some sort of a power problem, as James said, because the Brabham, which handles extremely well, has closed right up to the Renault on the tight swerves. And now you can see that on this drag up to the chicane, Eddie Cheever put his foot down and really pulled away from the Brabham BMW of Nelson Piquet, and they're coming up to the chicane at the end of their 38th lap, with Prost still in the lead, with Tournbay second, with now Eddie Cheever there in third position, with now Nelson Piquet in the background in the Brabham. There he is in fourth position. In fifth position it's still Keke Rosberg. In sixth place it's Jacques Lafitte. Seventh and eighth the two Tolmans of Giacomelli and Warwick. Ninth is Elio De Angelis, who has been lapped, of course. 10th is Johnny Cicotto in the Theodore. 11th is Mark Fura. 12th is Danny Sullivan. And 13th is Brazil. 14th is Alboreto. And then those are the 14 competitors out of the 26 who started this race who are still in the running. Because out of the race have gone Niki Lauda, Nigel Mansell, De Cesaris, Arnoux, Fabi, and Patrese, of course. So Alain Prost, looking steady and smooth as ever. He is on his 39th 4.3 mile lap now, and it looks as though it's going to be another Renault victory, and Renaults have been driven to victory since they came into Grand Prix racing in 1977 with the first turbocharged car in the modern Grand Prix racing. They've been taken to victory by Jean-Pierre Jabouille, who won the French Grand Prix at Dijon, by René Arnoux several times. There you see 2 laps to go. That's the sign there, and Alain Prost will have seen it himself. And of course Renaults have been driven to victory by the man you're looking at in the background now, Alain Prost. 39 laps completed, down to and round La Source, on his way to Eau Rouge, up to the Tyrrell, which he passes on the Tyrrell's right, on your left. Well, Renault's first and third, but is this protest going to happen? We have every reason to believe it does. If it happens, what will be the result? Because you can bet, particularly if the Renaults have finished first and third, that there will be a bitter, contentious and highly scientific wrangle about whether or not now maybe we'll look at the back of the car between the wheels, where you can see the under tray. It's in black there, but you can see the under tray tips up. And Renault said that was to allow the exhaust pipes to be repositioned and not to overheat the tyres, which they said were running some 10 degrees hotter than they should do. But Brabham are saying, it is said, this gives you a boundary layer advantage with the airflow. It's all terribly scientific, and I don't pretend to understand it in detail myself. But I don't believe that Brabham would make a protest unless they thought they got a very good chance of making it stick. But Now, on lap 40, the leader, Alain Prost, behind him, and far enough behind him not to be able to challenge him for victory in the Belgian Grand Prix unless something happens to Prost's car, is Patrick Tambay in the Ferrari on his way to 6 points, question mark 9 points. Third position Chiva, fourth position Piquet, fifth position Rosberg, sixth position Lafitte. Into the chicane comes the race leader for the 40th time in this 41 lap race. He accelerates away up the tiny little straight into the right and the left over the grid, and when you see him come out of La Source and drop down the hill to Eau Rouge and cross the line, which he will do very shortly, he will be on his 41st lap, and he is on that lap. Now, he's won! He's won! The race has been shortened yet another lap for some reason, because we have you saw the numbers on the board there that indicated that there were 2 laps. There has been some kind of a lap counting error, but the winner, as you saw from the checkered flag, unexpectedly going out a lap early for a reason I can't pretend to explain or understand, is Alain Prost, who joyously waves his hand and is repassed by Michele Alboreto, with Patrick Tambay finishing in second position, with Eddie Chiva third, with Nelson Piquet fourth. We're waiting for Keke Rosberg to come through. Well, there he is, finishing in fifth place in my sight, and the next man will be Jacques Lafitte. And what has happened here? On the last lap, one of the Tolmans has blown up. It looks like Bruno Giacomelli. I can only identify from the helmet it is. It's Bruno Giacomelli who is gesticulating furiously. Push me back, which means to say, does it that the engine's running, and that means to say that Derek Warwick will come up to 7th place. Well, the Belgian Grand Prix, which started as a bit of a shambles, with the first lap being stopped, and Bruno Giacomelli kept his engine running. He'd obviously just gone off, and it looks to say Bruno Giacomelli is one of the men who likes to run his engine rich, so don't get too worried about the puff of smoke. But the Belgian Grand Prix started with a shambles when the race had to be stopped after 1 lap. It's finished with a shambles, finishing after 40 laps, you see. The race was originally meant to be 42 laps. Then it was reduced to 41 laps, and now, for some totally inexplicable reason, has been reduced to 40. But there is the official result. Victory and 9 points for Alain Prost. Second place and 6 points to Patrick Tambay. Third place and 4 points to Eddie Chiva. Fourth place and 3 points to Nelson Piquet. Fifth place and 2 to Rosberg. Sixth and 1 point to Jacques Lafitte. And this will be the World Championship situation. Alain Prost leading Nelson Piquet by 4 points. Piquet 1 point ahead of the third place man Patrick Tambay. Keke Rosberg holding his fourth position in 5th and 6th places, but dropping back John Watson and Niki Lauda. And in the Constructors' Championship, Renault now lead Ferrari by 5 points.